What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/IDontWorkHereLady. This story's called Karen Sees Me Feeding My Newborn and Still Demands I Help Her Because Her Time Is Too Valuable. I went to Walmart today with my wife and newborn, looking for a bike for our daughter. To our surprise, the store was not very crowded, but it was still a bit busy, as you can all imagine, due to the holiday season. We arrived at the bike tracks and my wife had the urge to go use the bathroom, so I stayed behind trying to determine which one was more fitting for my daughter. Suddenly, the newborn wakes up crying and I start scrambling to prepare his bottle as it was time to feed. As good of a father as I believe I am, I could not find a freaking thing in that diaper bag. So the chaos was becoming real very fast. Enter Karen, equipped with high heels, sunglasses, a hat worthy of the Kentucky Derby, and a dress straight out of a romantic scene from an 80s movie. "Excuse me, help me get this bike down. Excuse me?" I knew she could not be talking to me because I was clearly struggling to open a zipper on a bag while the deafening screams of my baby were driving everyone else away. "Excuse me, do you speak English?" I took a peek over my shoulder and, wouldn't you know it, Karen was staring directly at me. "Are you gonna help me?" I kept ignoring her and managed to get what I needed out of the bag while my son made his best attempt to break every glass in the store with his high-pitched screams. At that exact moment, my wife showed up and somehow I managed to not curse out this lady. In fact, I politely replied, "Can you give me a moment, please?" I finished preparing the bottle while my wife held the baby, handed my wife the bottle to feed our son, and I turned and faced evil Karen. "Are you gonna help me?" "Did you realize I was busy with a baby?" "I don't have all the time in the world to chit-chat. Are you helping me or not?" "Which bike do you want?" "That one right up there." She pointed at the exact one I had eyeballed when I first arrived. So I calmly pulled the rack forward, took the bike down, and started walking, bike in hand, towards my wife. "You could just leave it right there." "Oh, I didn't get this down for you. I got this down for me. I'm buying this one." "Learn some frickin' manners, you old cooter, and take your frickin' shades off. It's 7:30 at night." "How dare you!" My wife busted out laughing so hard that the baby started crying again, but this time I didn't mind the noise, as it was blocking Karen's mumbling and swearing as we walked away with our daughter's new bike. Edit. Didn't expect this much action on my vent section. Thank you, kind strangers. Oh god. A few clarifications. I went with my newborn boy to get a bike for my daughter, and 2, this story is not fake, although I wish it was. This story's called Looking Like Crocodile Dundee Makes Me Work Here? I was reminded of this episode from watching a YouTube video featuring these I Don't Work Here Lady posts. Unlike what seems like most of those who seem to have had these types of encounters with the Karens of our species, I don't suffer fools lightly. Confrontation is definitely not what I live for, but please, don't start what you don't intend to finish. Since I used to work for this particular smaller strip mall-based pet store that I happen to be in this day, it's been decades though, I really shouldn't have been too shocked that I was mistaken for an employee. However, in my defense, compared to this store's basic khaki-colored uniform, plain or cargo shorts, a short-sleeve shirt with the store's name patch above the breast pocket, maybe some flair, my outfit would have been considered over-the-top employee uniform-wise. First, I need to say that I'm a fan of engineered clothing, or what most would call work clothes, and also Western wear. I like my clothing to last, I like the look, I like the feel. I am intrigued by the solution that Joe Blue Collar and clothiers that cater to him come up with to solve workwear problems and issues, and how most of these designs look. Saying that may give you a pretty good idea of where this is going. I went into my local, smaller pet store that day to, hopefully, find some fish stuff that the big box pet shop wasn't carrying. It wasn't too pleasant outside, so I had my oilskin Aussie drover's hat and a full-length duster on to keep out the wind and the rain that was expected later. This was over a greenish-tinged button-down shirt, khaki Stan Ray painter's pants, and brown leather boots. At 6'2", plus boots and dress like this, I do indeed cut a dashing swath, as I was once told by a very kind and polite grandfatherly gentleman who very much admired how I put myself together. I was in the back corner of the store, in front of a wall of merchandise that was hanging on pegs. Everything from tiny air stones to large plastic plants. It was just the area I was looking for. Since this corner of the store is kind of a dead zone, I felt I would be able to take my time standing in one spot looking for what I came for, or so I thought. Standing 2 to 3 feet away from the wall of fish stuff, with my duster open, hands in my pants pockets, bent down a little, with heads and eyes scanning for my items, I heard it. "Excuse me!" An obviously annoyed female voice exclaims. I knew I must have been seriously in the way, and while her tone was wholly impolite, I was raised by a grandma to be a gentleman. Yes, with a capital G, even in the worst of scenarios. Please remember this for later, please. So with a quick glance in this lady's direction, I apologized and moved aside, down the wall of fish stuff, further away from her. Stepping with me, she repeated, this time louder, "Excuse me!" This time, I turned completely around, standing to my full height, remember, and faced her. My rising to full height made, I was presented with the presence of a classic Karen. Haircut, dress, sunglasses, etc., taking a nervous step back. However, in true Karen fashion, she wasn't deterred by my dashing suave. "I have been waiting for you to turn around and serve me," she half screeches. I don't immediately go into "I don't work your lady" mode, but remembered how I was raised. I figured, since she was only about 5 feet tall, she was looking to get something from high up above, and just doing it in a very impolite way. So I figured I'd cut her a little slack. This would not be the case though. "I need a 55-gallon tank and all the garbage that goes with it." Yep, garbage is how she referred to all the equipment you need for a fish tank. Apparently, this was not on her preferred list of chores for the day. "All the fish as well. I don't want to have to come back here again." Oh yeah, this is definitely not something she wants to be doing. She was so wound up, she didn't even allow me to get any kind of utterances out. As soon as I would open my mouth to try to calmly explain that I don't work here, she'd spout off about her being in a hurry, her having to spend all this money, and how I'm not moving fast enough from the spot where she found me. Like I said, this was a dead zone corner of the store because they didn't really sell a lot of fish and/or supplies at this location. So I figured no employee was coming to my rescue anytime soon. 55-gallon! Let's go, mister! I do not want to be here all day. Just put a mix of fish in one big bag so I can just dump them in. Why aren't you moving, you lump? Aren't you people on commission or something? Don't you want to sell this stuff? Okay, that's it. Clicked off in my head. I finally started moving, much to her delight. "Oh, now we're going to do our job, are we?" she chirps. I started to lead her towards the area where the live fish were on display in tanks, as it was open to the main aisle that spanned the whole of the store. I did this hoping for respite from the tirade of demands and insults. How I kept from going off on her, I don't quite know. I guess my customer service professionalism instincts kicked in from all the years spent dealing with all the types of customers and guests in so many different industries. Besides, being male and the much bigger of the two of us, going off on her would have seemed, well, really bad. I was sort of crouched over as I was moving, trying to look around corners, hoping an actual employee would see her ranting and come over, quickly. "Where are you going? You have to give me a tank and all this garbage." Again with that term, on this stupid list. Are you even listening to me, you stupid piece of— Okay, now, that's really it! I finally said in an elevated tone. This done, as I turned back, once again raising to my full 6'2" height, making her step back and, unbelievably, take pause. I jumped on the opportunity to interject again. "I don't work here!" I said as I leaned down for extra emphasis of the point. "Even if I did, I clearly wouldn't be inclined to help you, as you have been nothing but an insufferable lout of a female. Blunt demands, escalating insults, no chance for me to respond. And never minding that you don't want to be here or do this, you obviously have no clue how fish are to be set up and/or cared for. So, if given a chance, I personally wouldn't send you off with any type of live animal. This was all said right after I made sure of the positive eye contact with the manager, was sure that she saw me, and was on her way over. The look of shock, surprise, anger, and possibly a bit of trepidation at the physical disparity between us was almost comical. I made sure to quickly turn to the manager as Karen tried to gather her wits about her. This lady has some issues, beginning with her ill manners and entitled attitude and her thinking that I work here. I had slowly turned my head back to peer into her red face and tightly squinted eyes, which I do not. Then there's her lack of knowledge about fish and their care. She does have a list, presumably from someone who knows and cares more, so I wish you luck in dealing with this. And with that, I gave Karen a glance, tipped the brim of my hat, gave her a slight smile, and got the hell out of there. It turned out to be one of only a tiny handful of times that a woman had gotten me that riled up in public. However, like I said, I don't suffer fools lightly. Male or female, apparently. Okay, first up, let me say that I 100% understand where this guy's coming from. While I'm not that into, I don't know what he referred to it as, engineered clothing or something, but I do love me some cargo wear because pockets, man. Pockets are so useful. I really remember when I was in 7th grade, okay? I had all these survival books and stuff like that, and I really wanted some tactical combat boots that, they're waterproof and all that crap. And I wanted, sick, nasty knife, and I just wanted to be decked out on all this survival gear. And anytime I went on a plane, I always kept my survival books and stuff like that just in case we somehow got in a plane crash in some uninhabited wilderness between freaking Oklahoma and Texas. Anyways, I understand where this guy's coming from with that, and I can respect that he tried to keep his composure despite this woman being a major pain in the hiney. Also, I grew out of that, so don't make fun of me. This story's called Stormed Out After Quitting a Job I Never Had. This happened to me yesterday, and I can't not share it because it's absolutely hilarious to me. I was recently hired in a smallish motorcycle garage workshop just under 3 weeks ago as a mechanic. Yet, what I tend to do most of the time is errands for the other people that work there, as I'm new and I'm not gonna complain. Normally it's organizing bolts, tidying tools up, sweeping, or grabbing food on the lunch break for everyone. They chip in, cash-wise for it obviously. Just before lunch, myself and one of my colleagues managed to bend a breaker bar, a large bar designed to increase torque on a nut bolt to make stiff bolts easier to loosen, and therefore needed to replace it. I take the company card, as it's a company expense, take everyone's money, and head into town to go do some light shopping. Thankfully, we're situated about a 5-minute walk from a Halfords, a British store for bicycles, car parts, tools, etc., and there's a small coffee shop opposite. The work uniform we have is essentially just black overalls, and I personally put a hoodie over the top half, as it can get quite cold around this time of year. This makes me look very similar to the uniform that is worn in the Halford shop. I turn up and head to the tools section and find a breaker bar easily enough. They're quite large, so it's hard to miss them. While I'm there, I have a general browse at a few other things in the shop, and an employee asks me if I need a hand. I'm juiced up on coffee and am reading the back of an alarmed padlock box when they speak, and it makes me jump, smacking my head on the shelf above and knocking some things off the shelf. Nothing heavy or delicate, just a few pairs of heated gloves and some tubes of glue. Apologizing and able to laugh about it, I assist the worker in placing everything back onto the shelf when a buzzer goes off and he says he has to head to the office and thanked me for helping restack the shelf. Just as I finished restacking the shelf and picking up the item I was looking at, a man walks in with a toolbox that the place sells and comes up to me kicking and screaming that he lost part of it or something. I honestly wasn't paying attention to what he was saying. I attempted to explain that I don't work here. He simply pointed at my legs, presuming they are trousers, not overalls, and calls me a liar, and that if I don't replace what he lost, he would fire me on the spot. The worker who had headed to the office arrived back at the end of the aisle about this time and asked if there was anything he could help with, and I, having spotted his name tag beforehand, told him by name that I've got this, turning back to the clearly irritated gentleman to tell him that he can't fire me because I quit. I placed the items I was holding on top of the toolbox, straddled across his arms, and storm off, being careful not to turn and show the massive grin on my face. Out the doors I went, and off to the coffee shop before returning to work, having completely forgot to return and buy the breaker bar. Told them the story, and another colleague walked over and bought it himself with the card. Really lightened the mood of a cold, dirty workshop for the day. Well, that was a pleasant little story. Good job for getting the breaker bar, though. This story is called, I'm an incoming university freshman? Cool! I had a similar scenario to people who were mistaken as staff, but I was mistaken as an incoming university freshman. I was either 12 or 13 and in 7th grade during my 2007-2008 school year. Being my mom and I were curious, we went to a university's open house. There, we gave ourselves a self-tour of part of the campus, spoke with several students and staff who had booths up for a variety of things. Now, I was taking music as a side class since I was in 4th grade and had been part of 2 school bands at this point. My mom had been part of her own school band, which included marching band. I had never seen a marching band performance, and that day, the university's marching band performed for everyone there. These students were really talented and I was blown away. While I unfortunately cannot remember how the conversation went, I remember my sometimes shy bum would walk up to 2 of the students and start conversing with them. I can somehow recall asking how difficult it was to walk in formation, and I spoke of how I was considering being part of a marching band later on. And then one of them spoke up and either assumed I was an incoming freshman or asked if I was because they were not certain. I was shocked at that. I was still in 7th grade and 12 or 13, and there I was being mistaken as an incoming freshman at the university level. I did explain that and they apologized. But we all, the 2 students, my mom and I, got a good laugh over it. We guessed their mistake was based on my overall appearance, the way I carried myself, spoke, and the questions I asked. That is my only experience with being misidentified in a #IDontWorkHereLady type manner. But it is still a good story. You know what, that is a good story because I know for a fact that if I was 12 or 13 and I was mistaken for a college freshman or an incoming college freshman, I would have been like, dang. Well, yeah, I would get such an ego boost because I was like really insecure because I was a bit of a late bloomer. Like I had like a girl voice up until freaking 9th grade almost. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.